Meow, meow, meow.
Hello, it's meow time for KittenousBeast gaming videos for cats and their people. KatzeLande Prime, episode 35. Um, so we've had some challenges with trying to deal with a cooling solution for the volcano that I uncovered, and we're now in the process of developing a cooling system to help with that and some other cooling needs that we need to think about solving for the base. So we're going to continue those efforts. I'm trying to prepare a more permanent cooling system solution here in the form of this steam turbine with a steel aqua tuner, and that steel aqua tuner is boiling water, and the water is then being converted into electrical energy when it reaches a certain temperature. Um, and then the steam turbine would release that water back into the chamber and the process would continue. This is a essential heat deleting mechanic that's built into this game. So nothing really surprising or special happening there. Um, so with that aqua tuner, we have the possibility to start using it as a heat sink, drawing heat out of other places in the base into that aqua tuner, which can then turn the heat into electrical energy, thus deleting the heat from the world. So we're going to be trying to develop that kind of a system here today, um, and it's going to be I think it's going to be a pretty decent system. I've given it a significant amount of thought um, in terms of what I'm going to try to accomplish with this. So I'm hoping it's going to go well. Um, at this particular juncture, what we're going to do is figure out a couple of details in terms of sensors. So we do need a thermo sensor in here to deal with the heat, but we also have that pump here, and that pump is something that will ultimately wind up deleting. So I am going to put my thermo sensor one tile uh, below here. So we're definitely going to be using that spot for that thermo sensor. So to help prevent me from forgetting to do that, I'll put a little wire here just to remind me that that needs to happen at some point. So this is a little gas pump here. So power that up. And we're going to have to deal with the fluids. So uh, this ejects the water and then we'll release it back into the area. So we're going to put a little liquid vent in here. I'm just going to use probably just aluminum or whatever for that liquid vent. Or I should probably choose something that's thermally reactive. So I'll choose gold for this. Okay, awesome. So now we have this mechanized airlock system. I am optimistic that if I turn this into a vacuum space, that my dupes can come down these and not break the vacuum. I'm hoping. If they actually do break the vacuum, I'm going to be a little bit annoyed. All right, meanwhile, we need to use our exosuit forge to create some atmospheric suits. We happen to pick up enough copper from that volcano where we can make a couple suits out of it. So that's a nice perk from what we've done with our initial experiment here. Um, all right, so the plan here is to develop a place for the heat to be sort of centralized. So again, I've kind of described this concept of this aqua tuner in here as being a heat sink. Basically, it's going to be a place where I take heat from the world and direct it into this unit. That's basically the concept here. So we're going to try and build this system in such a way that it'll work really, really well. Um, and again, have given this a lot of thought, so I'm optimistic that my plan will work. But again, no guarantees. I have not attempted to build this system before, so this isn't like a pre-prepared thing that I'm demonstrating. Um, if that's what you're expecting, I do apologize in advance that you're not going to get that. Okay, so but we're going to build something cool, I think. That's ultimately why we play this game, I hope. All right, so this thermo aqua tuner will just run. I'm not going to use any automation on this really. Uh, and it's going to cool down a chamber. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take apart what I have here and build the chamber that I intend on using. Um, and this chamber is going to be a significant element of my base in this area at least. So I'm going to build it up just a touch. Uh, right now we've got a capacity of 15 tiles. So thinking about if I want to go a little bit bigger, I might go one more tile, I think. Okay, so that's going to be my little chamber. And I'm going to put a ladder in on one side. We're going to deconstruct all that stuff. Take out a couple of these stray wire pieces, and we'll just let the dupes do their work on that little piece here. All right. So we'll again boost priority on the tasks that we want to get done for this particular project. Let's check out our farms. Yep, we're doing great with the waterweed farm over here. We're almost going to have this completely wrapped up. And then we'll move over to here and be able to plant some plants over there as well. So that's good. Uh-oh, we got some trapped fellows here. We'll just take that bottom piece out so that they can build it. All right, put our little ladder in. Great. Okay, so my little reservoir is nearly finished. So my plan is to use this reservoir as a supercharged cold battery. So I am going to fill this chamber with ethanol and chill it. So this aqua tuner is just going to have a loop that it uses to chill down that ethanol. Um, and that ethanol can then be used as a coolant for other areas. So I'll turn this little chamber into a coolant distribution system for cooling down different whatever needs to be cooled down. I'll develop a little plan for, and I think that that will work kind of nicely. I may expand the tank upwards if I feel the need. We'll see how this works initially here. So, making it happen. All right. So we've got the aqua tuner all juiced up and ready to go. Um, Next pieces in this puzzle are, getting that ethanol. Where's that ethanol going to come from? Well, in fact, we have a whole stockpile of ethanol that was warmed up right over here. Now, we haven't been using our petroleum generator to generate electricity for quite some time. So I'm going to go ahead and not worry about the fact that this thing is not going to have a fuel supply for a little while. Uh, we're just going to go ahead and do what we got to do to get that ethanol where I want it to go. So, this is all just going to be very, very, very temporary, but I'm going to go across here and then sneak a little vent over here. So let's make it happen. And we're going to use regular pipes because this is just sort of a temporary thing. And again, it ain't going to be pretty, but we'll tidy all this up when we get this little project all sort of figured out working. Okay, great. So now we got that piping system in place. All right, so we'll sort of jettison the, we're gonna have to disable this. I'm turning off this pump over here so that when this liquid eventually starts moving, it'll allow this pipe to get drained, and then I can reposition the pipe into to come in at a more desirable angle, or whatever you want to call it. All right, so here comes that ethanol, I hope. Yep, it's just not coming out because we haven't connected this last pipe. There we go. All right, so we'll get that ethanol out of this container. That'll free up the cooling system a little bit. Um, and we'll keep working on this build over here. Oh, I'm noticing some hydrogen is getting into the air system. That's bad. It's going to damage those little suit docks. That's problematic. I think I see some more hydrogen right over here. So for whatever reason, there is hydrogen getting into this space. Um, Probably from this thing over here when I uncapped it. So I should be a little bit more careful about that. I should have probably put a pressure door in place. Hmm. All right, so we should see some risk activity on this area. Um, so when this gas pump fires up, it's just going to dump the air out over here, which is totally great. And this should then form a vacuum, and then my guys can sneak down here, and we can have a great party. But yeah, I don't know when I want to turn that thing on. Probably pretty soon, so I should finish the wiring part to that project. So, we'll bring that little wire down a little bit. We'll do our little plate, and we got it. All right. Prioritize that. All right, so there's that little ethanol there. Just pouring it right into this little chamber. Okay, so the primary cooling action is going to come from this aqua tuner chilling down ethanol and then running it through here in the form of a pipe loop. So I'm not actually going to be adding or removing ethanol from this chamber to cool it. That's just going to be in a permanent loop that's connected to this aqua tuner. Um, Hopefully that kind of seems like a sensible thought, because that's how I'm going to deal with cooling down that ethanol is with just a single loop. Uh, so I will be building that loop probably here. I might even put a little ladder here, kind of help deal with the construction that's going to need to happen. So, all right, the I'm going to have an input here. So we're kind of building this a little bit backwards, but we're going to have a liquid shutoff valve, and that valve will be active if the temperature is above a certain amount. So if the temperature is above a certain amount, we want the fluid to go into the aqua tuner to get cooled down. Is that kind of, that makes perfect sense, right? Great. All right. So if it um, it is not, if it's fine, we just want to recirculate it. So if it's fine, it's going to come off of here and then reconnect into the loop at some point. All right. So meanwhile, this aqua tuner is going to cool down the water and then it's going to eject it. So how that water is going to be ejected is going to come out of here and then kind of come over here. Well, we got to change some of the tiles here now. So, and I don't want that any more of that hydrogen to escape unnecessarily, so I'm going to kind of be cautious in how I modify this setup here. I gotta deactivate this thing now. All right. So, okay. We'll, we're almost ready to do the other half of that little loop piece. Now, I want this stuff to be super cold. So, looking at ethanol, ethanol freezes at 114 degrees, negative 114 degrees. So, what I want this to be is I want this, if this liquid is above negative 99, so if it's warmer than negative 99, I want it to get chilled down by the aqua tuner. I want this liquid to be super cold. And we'll talk more about why I'm trying to get it this cold a little bit later if we get around to temperatures like this eventually. We'll talk about that. But yeah, so we want this to be really, really cold. So it'll only get cooled down a little bit more if it's above this temperature. So it's going to take a while for it to get cooled down. Right, and then this is going to eject the liquid, right? So we're going to have this ejection happening here. Okay, so let's plan that out. And they've got to build this last tile here before I can, there we go. All right, so let's now do that plumbing piece. So the cool down liquid comes down, okay, and there it goes. So here's the deal. Um, what I'd like to do is test that liquid again, because what I really want is a highly concentrated liquid, cold liquid. Um, or no, wait, actually, this is so, I just want to keep this simple, this system simple. So I'm not going to do that. I'll just let this chilled water roll through, and it'll eventually reach the desired temperature. There's no reason for me to build in complicated logic for this particular case. So that said, um, what we'll do is we'll have a bridge and okay, so yeah, so this is the cooled liquid, and this is liquid that's gonna recirculate if it's a fine temperature. So we want this liquid to have the priority, I think. Yeah, so the aqua tuner should have the priority over the liquid. So if it's coming off of this, that's fine. We can put it into the loop secondary to the aqua tuner's output. Great. All right. So this is where the coolant is going to come in to the system. And you can see here we've got some piping issues right now. This purple pipe is coming right in the middle of what I'm trying to do. And meanwhile, this ethanol is draining out of this tank. And so we're going to have to be patient while this drains. So we can't finish the piping just yet, but we've at least done the preamble to the piping. And we'll come back and walk through the whole system once we get this all built up. Okay, so while this building is happening, let me redirect my attention back to the cooling system itself. So we're going to need to fill this with water. So there is a water source I can tap over here, no problem. Got to bear in mind that we did finally exhaust this pool down here. Might have to move to this pool over here or something and get these tanks continue to be full so we can run our equipment as needed. Um, oh, check on my pip farm. Got to keep an eye on these little critters. Okay. All right. So, trying to figure out what else I need to make this build successful. So, I'm going to pressurize this and then finish some of my work in here. Ultimately, I don't want steam lingering over here. I want the steam up here. So, one of the things that I'll be putting into place is a pressure door here to seal this chamber. And yeah, there's going to be heat and it's going to be nasty. And some steam might get in here and condense and form water, but my dupes are going to be in an atmosphere suit, so they're not going to care. And, a little bit of extra water, well, that could be a bad heat. I might actually just block this off then once this gets pressurized, I think. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll figure it out. We're going to get there very, very soon. Kind of waiting for them to finish delivering these atmosphere suits. And they should have built them. Yeah, they're just sitting there, but nobody's delivering them. So maybe I'll boost their priority. All right, here they come. Fabulous, finally. Okay. All right, so now that those are all set up, my next steps are to seal this chamber and suck all the air out. So that's what we're going to do. I am optimistic that we have most of the build set up properly. This is going to be a pretty simple setup, so well, at least this part's going to be simple, and the rest of it's going to be a little bit more interesting, I hope. All right, so now that that's going, we're going to turn this on. Oh, and I guess I could probably just, oh, well, I need, just checking my materials available down here. I don't have a ton. I do have some obsidian. So this may take quite a deal longer to create the vacuum that I want, but this this pump will eventually eliminate all of the air in this chamber and it'll turn into a vacuum. And when that happens, that's going to make the ideal conditions for a steam turbine setup. So you probably noticed me pressurize this chamber down here a couple of times. We're like, why? Why are you doing that? And the answer uh, to that question is, it really helps with the steam turbine setup if you do it that way. So again, I think this was an admirable attempt at solving the problem with this volcano, but those refined materials are still so hot, I don't think I can handle them or use them in any way. So my ultimate plan eventually here is to cool this down very, very soon. And we're going to have to kind of hustle on that, I think, because the temperature of this water is starting to get a little bit higher. So, and the temperature in here is getting high. Not sure when this thing will finally turn off, when it will go dormant. But once it goes dormant, I'll have a shot. Like this aluminum volcano over here is dormant, so I could do the setup now very safely, get it configured to exactly what I want, and then let it ride. So I might even direct some of my energy on that while we're waiting for this to get all set up. So this is my ethanol pond as it in its present state. So I am going to disconnect this uh, liquid bridge here um, to disconnect the fuel line from here so that this will start storing ethanol again. That's fine, we can do that. And then I'm going to dismantle the rest of this pipe system that's going to sort of interfere with what we're going to try and implement in here. So, okay. So it's a little bit of a tight space, but I think we're going to be able to make this work. So the coolant is going to be ejected from here via this pump. So, all right. Let's take care of these other pipes here. And I will ultimately I may reroute this into a slightly more desirable thing. And I'm going to go ahead and I wish I had better spacing on this. I guess I could have it come. No, I guess I can't have it come straight down. That would be bad. So I am going to try and navigate this in a more good way. This will work. I think I'm looking at it sideways a little bit here. Okay. So the cooling is going to happen via these in radiant liquid pipes. So, uh, we could use copper, I think, to do the job, or gold would be preferred. We're low on gold, so I'll go ahead and order some up. We got plenty, so we'll just go with 20. Temperature down here isn't too bad, so we can run a pretty big gold processing operation. Okay. Um, and what will happen here is yeah, I'm gonna have to. So we'll jog this kind of in a good way. Trying to be as careful of making this too super complex. So there'll be radiant liquid pipes in gold, and then I'll have to wait for more gold. But I'm going to go like in a U around here, and then we'll connect in a similar fashion. All right, so just following the way the liquid will flow, if this makes sense. So it'll uh, it'll come out of the loop after passing through the heatsink here. It'll come out of the loop and get tested for temperature. If the temperature is needs to be cooled down, it'll get sent through here and get cooled down, and then it'll get priority and get readmitted into the system. Okay. Meanwhile, if the temperature is okay, it'll just go back over here and recirculate into the system. So we should have a constant, never-ending loop here. Um, and we'll wait for the materials to get baked in, and you'll kind of see why I put some bridges here to give us access to this vent. Got some hazardous materials over here with that ethanol, so meanwhile you kind of see our vacuum is fighting it here. There's some hydrogen that was in here that they're slowly ejecting. Um, and eventually a vacuum will form in this chamber. We got some idleness here. Let's check on our farm. Yep, these guys are such champs. I mean, if you think about this, my food problems are ending bit by bit. I'm providing enough nutrition for dupes based on, natural, doesn't cost me anything. As long as I maintain the temperature, I'm totally fine. It's basically what we're dealing with here. So yeah, I'll go with this free iron, man. It's a great deal. I mean, and these pips are relentless. They just do the job in seconds if you're paying attention. Um, these poor guys are gonna die if I don't do something about this. I'm gonna turn these off. And maybe, just maybe, these things will go off and these guys will be able to eat it in time. Getting close. Um, okay, so we should have completed at least a couple gold refining operations. So here's where the chilling happens. Right. So this should complete the system. Once this is in place, we can fire up this aqua tuner and start cooling down this liquid. We'll need to inject some sort of liquid into here, and the liquid we're going to inject is ethanol. So we're just going to super chill this ethanol down using an ethanol loop. Um, I've not really used ethanol as a cooling agent before, largely because of um, me using uh, polluted water instead. But I was really impressed with its capacity to I was really impressed with its capacity to dissipate heat during this early game stage. So I think it's a good contender. And that low temperature is really going to help, I think, resolve some issues, especially over here. So we're working on it, and we're going to try and get it in play as quickly as we can, while keeping our fingers crossed and hoping that this copper volcano eventually just stops and goes dormant. Okay, so we're now ready to turn this pump back on to charge up my loop with with uh, with coolant. Okay, so we're not quite ready for the show. As you probably have noticed, we haven't quite finished this liquid shutoff piece, and that's totally fine. We'll let this coolant load into the system. No big deal. Um, we're waiting for this vacuum to form. I think it may have formed. Nope, still no vacuum. We're getting there though. All right. There's the kind of the proof of concept that the loop will work. Um, all right. So check my pips. Yep. And next thing to do is probably queue up a little bit more gold. Oh no, they've got a lot more to make. So, right, that's good. So far so good. Now I am going to redirect the water out of this system. Um, I wish I could get this water over here out of these pops out, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. So what I need to do is I need to get some water over here into this chamber. I'm waiting for that pressure to finally get a vacuum to finally form, and it's getting there. But once that vacuum forms, we're going to be able to put in play our tile here to block this off, and then chamber is just a little big, so the pump has to work extra hard. So in terms of getting the water up there to fill this thing up, we can work on that now. There's a little bit of piping I can borrow here. So we'll just leapfrog that ethanol line and shoot this pipe up right into our goal here. And we're not quite ready for that yet, so I will just cancel the bridge so that we're nearly ready to go. These pips are just relentless. I mean, they're getting there before they're getting there and planting those water weeds before I can even pretend like they're gonna plant some water weeds. So I've had a lot of fun with this water weed garden that I've developed here. But over here, I'm going to start to plant some arbor acorn trees because we should probably have some of those going too. So I will tell them to put arbor acorn seeds here. And I know this one has some arbor acorn seeds in it, but we're going to have this one get those seeds, and then we can remove our first thing there. Any minute now. All right, so we will need more ethanol to fill this tank. So I'm going to go ahead and issue the orders to make that happen. Um, we're probably best served by just one channel up, although we've kind of hit a snag over here, right? We've already dug into these chambers so the ethanol would spill. So maybe it'd be better to do the tunnel over here. Yeah, I'm going to go with that option. So we're going to get within striking distance of this ethanol. And this will be a nice project for my dupes to attend to while I wait for this to finally become a vacuum. All right, so we've nearly reached vacuum state here in this entire chamber, and we're going to just let that state propagate fully. Okay, so why am I so obsessed about forming a vacuum down here, right? Good question. The main reason is I want this heavy watt joint plate to be vacuum sealed so that even though there's going to be tremendous amounts of heat here, this heavy watt joint plate will not pass heat through here to here if this is a vacuum chamber. So I've now vacuum chambered this. That's one good reason, right? The other good reason is, like I said, to optimize the steam reaction, you need to have a vacuum in place. So, that's just what you're going to do. So I'm optimistic that if my dupes come down here and this remains a vacuum, I can get this place cleaned up. And then I probably should have done the sweeping first, but I'm just going to see if they're able to get through that without breaking the vacuum seal. And if it makes a little bit of a, no, looks like it did break the seal. A little bit of oxygen got in, so now it has to seal all over again. Okay, that's annoying, but I can solve that problem during the workday. I'll go ahead and just disable this while I get that. It's, no, it's so close to forming a vacuum. Well, we'll have them sweep those debris items and then it's it's too bad this four-door setup doesn't automatically allow for full vacuum down here. That's going to be kind of problematic because, I guess we can just I'm wondering what that little alert is. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of a waste of power to let this pump run while I clean this up. And really, if I had been on the ball, I would have done the sweeping before I started to try and do the pressurizing of the chamber. At this point, I kind of recognize the need for a mechanized airlock here that I can control. This will allow me to complete my vacuum sealing of this area that I need to do with the dupes, without the dupes direct intervention. So we're going to put this together real fast. And again, I've never built this system before, so what I'm attempting to do here is not a pre-prepared thing. I'm going to actually put two of them in place. Who's fleeing? There must be an angry crab somewhere. There is. There's an angry crab over here. I wonder where his little egg is. So if we grab his egg, he'll stop being so mad. So somebody will snag his egg and then he'll stop being so mean. This guy got scared and closed the door. Did you see that? Or maybe it was because the door just didn't work right for him. Alright, so this should finally do what I want without requiring the tube intervention at all. while still giving me access for various purposes. I don't know why I built it this way. I was really hoping that this would work, but I guess maybe we need even more doors for it to adequately hold a seal. Alright, so I don't need the tubes to go up and down through there any longer, so this will eventually become a vacuum now. It's like the never-ending vacuum project. Some eggs, okay. Oh yeah, look, we got even more plug slugs going here. Look at this, this is great. Oh, they're overcrowded in here? How many tiles is this thing? It's only 57 tiles. Well, I mean, I guess we can just go ahead and tear out all that abyssalite and make it a little bit bigger for him. Ooh, ooh. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and start pumping some of this cold ethanol into here also. Poor guy's starving. Almost there. Okay, so we're filling that up with some more ethanol. And we are going to release this reservoir here. And that should just go right down where we want it to go. Perfect. All right. So we refilled our reservoir with some nice cold liquid ethanol. Some of that ethanol is going to be used for this system right here. And we'll keep an eye on this so that it doesn't get too overpressured. And meanwhile, we're about to form our vacuum finally in here once more. And then we can inject water into this system here. Oh no, they planted a water weed. That's not going to work. I thought they'd only plant the water weed seeds if they, I guess I gotta move the water weed seeds out. No biggie. Um, and we'll let the acorns just fall down. So So they should then pick up the arbor acorn seeds and plant those instead, as I wanted them to. All right, so we have formed the vacuum that I've so desperately wanted. We can now seal these doors, and this will prevent the steam heat from leaking out this pathway where I've got heavy watt wire. That's the operating theory. This chamber will now always be sealed with a vacuum, so no matter what heat is in here or in here, these will not pass heat to the outside world. Great. I know that that was a huge pain in the butt to do, but I think it's going to be worth it. All right, so we're going to dump a little bit of water into the system through here, and I'm not going to go crazy. I only want like, I don't know, like maybe half of a tile across the bottom because I don't need that much water to make a good amount of steam to make this turbine work. So I might be looking at maybe like, I don't know, like maybe 1,000 kilograms of water or something like that that I want to load into here. So we'll keep an eye on it. Right, again, look, my plug slugs are making most of the power around here, just so you're aware. Um, the well has run dry, so now I really am leaning on these plug slugs more than ever to make sure that I get what I need. Um, might as well spend some of that copper and tune these up just so we get the most out of our gas. It'll help reserve more and more gas. All right, we've nearly filled this up as much as I want it to be filled. So um, I'm going to stop this pump in a little bit here because I don't know if I want to have it peek up into that last row too much. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn that pump off. And you know, honestly, I might need to make that heat reservoir a little bit bigger, but we'll cross that bridge when we need to. All right, we're loading our water up into the chamber here. All right, so now that we've got the vacuum where I wanted it over here, we need to finish the build in here. And I feel so dumb because if I just put my thermo sensor here, I'd be good to go, but I didn't. So, you know, we're going to have to bust into this chamber here and build that thermo sensor and then do something about this gas pump too because it can't be in there either. So, a little bit of a folly here with this setup. So I don't want to spoil the vacuums that I developed over on this side. Put our thermo sensor in and solve that problem once and for all. And then we'll Have to wire up something for automation for this pump as well. So we can turn it on and off. And we'll do the whole thing all over again. All right. And then we'll seal that back up. And pump all the air out again. And then we'll be good to go. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking we've got about maybe 15. I'm going to wait till maybe about 400 per tile or 500 per tile and then cut off the water supply. All right, we're nearly there. Okay, let's go ahead and deconstruct that and I'll be happy with this setup. Okay, so once we deconstruct this little tube here, um, we're going to be ready to fire this thing up. Well, actually, I guess I could. No. All right, so we've reached vacuum again, despite my many errors. And we're going to send this, if it's above 235 degrees. So if this is above 235 degrees, we want this turbine to run. I think optimum temperature is like 230 to 240. So that's the plan. Um, so we've got a good amount of water in here that'll make a great amount of steam. And once that steam gets up to a certain temperature, this will be able to produce electricity using that steam at that temperature. And it'll leak that water back out down into here where it'll continue to form steam. So this will be my heat deleting mechanism here. All right, next we have to inject additional ethanol into this system and actually let it start to cool. So we do have to do some automation here and then some electricity and then we'll be in business. All right. And I've mixed up my inputs and outputs on the build here. uh, the remarkable silliness of this does not escape me. Um, just baffling how I missed that particular detail. But I am going to jujitsu this. We can solve this pretty quick. So let's go ahead and do that. Bonus points if you noticed that all along and were scoffing at me. But all right, let's go ahead and fix this problem. First thing we're going to need to do is um, put a little jumper here. So I'm going to oy, And I don't want liquid. Well, I guess it would eventually wind its way down there if I spilled any. So I am going to need to deconstruct um, one of these two pipes here. And since there's ethanol in it, it's going to spill. So let's just go ahead and bite the bullet. I'm going to go and deconstruct this pipe here. Okay, so, oh, yep, there is liquid ethanol up in that chamber now. All right, well, guess I made a poor choice on that one. All right, so we're going to go into that one. We'll deconstruct this pipe here. And connect these two pipes. And now it will work as intended. I don't know how this 10 kilograms of liquid ethanol is going to affect the way this machine works. I don't know if it's going to make it more efficient or less efficient. No idea. But sometimes things don't work out very well. And this is an example where that was just bad planning. Was like just goofed it up there pretty bad. So, and we'll just charge the system up and then work on setting this loop back up for the cooling of these systems over here. We want the loop to be fully charged. Looks like it's fully charged now. Or nearly fully charged. We need to wait till some of this liquid gets down to the coldest possible temperature. This is looking, the loop is doing some kind of a job cooling this down. Um, temperatures going in, -5, temperatures going out. They're not this on point with the temperatures of the liquid here. So we might want to do a little bit of assistance in temperature shift if possible with like metal temperature shift plates, maybe even in the middle here. Um, I don't have access to a lot of metal just yet. So, all right. But we are getting this stuff cooled down. It'll get cooled down at some point. Uh, right? Yeah, it's on its way. All right, so we do need to hook that system back up online. Um, I really need to move this large tonnage of copper to someplace else. Otherwise, it will eventually cause this heat to get really, really bad. And I don't need that in my life just right now. So, it's coming in, coming out. Just kind of check the temperature difference is about 14. So I mean, we're doing okay with trying to generate some cooling in this chamber here. And the temperature is falling, so that's what you want. Meanwhile, we've got heat leaks all over the place here, right? This is starting to heat up. One of the reasons why there's a leak is because I didn't reseal that vacuum. If I had, this heat wouldn't have been emanating out of here. So that's a problem. This isn't really well designed for vacuum sealing either, so that's kind of of an issue. Um, and I gotta get to cooling this down pretty soon. It's starting to get hot. Um, so I built this whole thing. It's starting to get cooled down, so now we got to use it to cool down this. And that's going to be a little bit of a feat. So let's get started on that particular piece. And we're going to do a bridge out. And we'll get our coolant to where we want it to go. So I'm going to cool down that water chamber with my liquid ethanol. And it's going to go in here. There's going to be gold pipes like so. And then we'll get it out of the system and we'll put it into a return line over here. Great, 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 great. So we've pretty much got the system set. Um, all we need to do is power that pump. And now we'll have a duel of the fates. So I will eventually turn this into a loop with a little bit more logic, but in case you haven't noticed, this is starting to get heated up pretty quick, so I want to apply cooling effects on it as soon as I possibly can. So we're going to do it that way, and we're going to run this for a little while, and we will eventually upgrade this to be a little bit more of a smart system. Oof. Hurry up, guys. Taking some hits. Probably have a couple injuries there from that high temperature experience, but what are you going to do? Hmm. Uh, Sooner this thing gets going, the better. I need to get this starting to cool down. So I'm going to be taking the heat that's generated here and sinking it into here, which is cooled over here. So this can just be one of many possible loops I could pull out of this little ethanol tank to help keep the cooling of the base happening. This is kind of an emergency, so I'm hoping that they'll build this quick. If this gets too hot, I can't use ethanol to cool it. So I'm trying to be hasty and get it done. I think if this turns into a pretty bad disaster, I might have to call it uh, another industrial accident. It's almost ready. I hope this doesn't boil the ethanol. I gotta keep my fingers crossed here. So here we go. Almost boiling. So I got lucky here. I hit it. I think I got there kind of just in time. Um, not that boiling ethanol is all that bad, but yeah. So this should have an effect on keeping this or cooling this down. You can see the temperature is starting to falter and go down. So my cooled ethanol is removing the heat from the water, um, and that heat is then going to get sunk up into this aqua tuner, which will eventually generate steam in good time. So we'll actually get uh, some ethanol gas first. And actually, I have an opportunity to get rid of that ethanol, and you'll see how in a kind of a silly and hilarious fashion in a few seconds. I was kind of despairing for a few moments there about that fateful spill of ethanol into that area, but I'm going to be able to bounce back, I think, in a few seconds. So you'll notice the chamber of ethanol is increasing in heat because we're drawing away the heat from this chamber here. So, it's going to be the fight between these two systems to deal with the heat. And I'm thinking that my ethanol cooling system will win eventually. So, yeah, I think we're getting there. Yeah, we'll get there. I'm confident. All right. So, let's plug this back into our original cooling system over here for the generators and whatever. Um, so we're getting into a little bit of a density with our piping problematic, especially when you've got triple layer pipe. No way you're going to be able to get through that. Um, so let's see here. So I've got this pump pumping over to here, which is connecting it into the loop. This is supposed to provide that additional few kilograms of coolant as needed. Um, but I think what we'll do is we'll try and hit over here. This is where we needed to hit with this pipeline. So I might track this connection down, perhaps. So it fills up this one, and then it fills up this one. So these are two distinct systems that are being handled. Um, so can't necessarily move it too much, but I can move the corner, I think. So let's move the corner. And I'm going to try and be clever about this. So some of this might be tricky to get built. I think I got it. Yeah, I think I got it. So we'll have it come in here and it'll get kicked off here or bypass up to there. Okay. So we've reestablished a connection with our initial loops for cooling with this ethanol here. You notice the base is heated up a little bit as a result of that. Because even though we are trying to play it safe with using plug slugs to manage our power needs, with that thermo aqua tuner running a lot, we're going to use a lot of energy. So you can see the thermo aqua tuner is using most of the energy that we have available to us. Probably notice now we've got some ethanol condensation and whatnot. So eventually it'll turn into ethanol gas. And when it does, I'll be able to siphon it out. Kind of what we're going for here. All right, there's my unreachable build. I gotta fix that. And how are we doing with our farm? Doing great. Okay, and it's causing my water to go crazy. Watch this. So I'm going to get rid of that ethanol by eliminating it as a gas. See that? So because the boiling point of the ethanol in the water was different, I was able to successfully delete or extract the ethanol from this chamber. And now it'll just be regular old steam, just how I planned to doing it. I planned on it being all along. Um, and unfortunately, some of the ethanol did escape. It's like lingering around here now, and I'm not going to be able to completely ever get it all out of the natural environment. Maybe I should have been a little bit more careful about that. But no worries. Yeah, so this has heated up significantly. And again, this is supposed to act as a heat sink. So it's supposed to draw the heat out of this chamber and concentrate it here so it can be dealt with by this chamber over here. So um, we have seen decreases in the temperature, so it's sort of working. And I'm hoping I'll be able to get this like super cold eventually. Um, and this volcano constantly erupting is not helping me um, in stabilizing the temperatures over here. So we'll fight it and eventually we'll win. That's the big idea anyways. So hope you enjoyed the video. We finally got this cooling system running. Um, We've dropped the temperature in this. It was up in the 80s or starting to get in the 80s, and now it's down to the 70s, 60s. So the cooling effect is happening, and we'll just have to fight it out, see which which one will win. The water does have a greater capacity, but the ethanol can get colder. So I'm banking on that additional temperature difference to really help. So I think we'll eventually kind of hit a happy medium here where this will stop cooling or stop heating and it'll actually start to cool. And then this chamber will also start to cool. But see how we do. All right. Have a great day and we'll be seeing you.